This is after Yerushalmi Eruvin. The article Ozva Deshim was supposed to start at the top of Nun Hey. I'm going to start from the bottom of Nun down base, second to last line, Tiny Kane, which in the Vilna is mamash at the top of Nun Aleph from the base. The Tiny Kane, according to Divrei Leo Shovin, we have a bride that says that the Shita of Rabbi Yerushalmi Broka is how much you need Rabbi Tchumen, and the Shita of Rabbi Shimon are very similar. How can this be? Comes to the loaf, according to Rabbi Yerushalmi Broka, is 12 beitzim, half a cup. The loaf of Rabbi Shimon is 8 beitzim, but even that, you only do 2/3 of that loaf for Erev Tchumen. So actually, the amount you need for Erev Tchumen is much lower. It's 5 1/3 beitzim, 2/3 of 8. So if that's the case, there's a very big gap between the two of them. And the size of the loaves, even more so, the size of Erev Tchumen. How do we understand this? So how can you say they're similar? So Oh, so Ravuna says, no, you're making a mistake, because you have to remember that they take off, according to Rabbi Yerushalmi Broka, 1/3 for the expenditure, meaning what they charge for, or what the baker charges for overhead. Oh, so that you take off 1/3 for expenditure, so therefore everything becomes lower. Now the size of the loaf has gone down by 1/3. So the size of a loaf actually is now identical. 8 beitzim is a loaf for Rabbi Yerushalmi Broka. 8 beitzim is a loaf according to Rabbi Shimon, because we just deducted 1/3 for the overhead of the baker. So while for a pundion you can buy 12 beitzim of grain, according to Rabbi Broka, you can't buy a loaf of bread of 12 beitzim for that same price. Because after all is said and done, after all the overhead, you can only get a loaf of 8 beitzim, of 8 eggs, for that price of a pundion. So as the article brings down from the Yerushalmi Eruvin, well, if that's the case, they're not krovim. If we're talking about the loaf, the exact same size. You just deducted 1/3, so it's 8 beitzim and 8 beitzim. So he says, the Yerushalmi might say, well, it's not precisely, the overhead is not precisely, it's around 1/3. So the Rabbi Yerushalmi is not precisely 8 beitzim, but it's around 8 beitzim. They could give other answers, and you could say really that the krovim means that they are closer than you think on the amount of that you originally thought than in terms of the Erev Tchumen, because originally you need 12 beitzim according to Rabbi Yerushalmi Broka, and only 5 1/3 according to Rabbi Shimon. Okay, that's a very, very big gap. It's more than 50%. But now it's a smaller gap, because now it's 8 beitzim, and instead of 12, and 8 and 5 1/3 are closer, much closer than 12 and 5 1/3. There is in the Bavli, the article brings down here in the very nice chart it has. In the Bavli, actually, they say the expenses are a half. That's Rabbi Yerushalmi. The third line from the top of that chart is Rabbi Yerushalmi Broka according to the Shitas Bavli. So according to that, actually it comes out that the Mazon Shtei Seudos, according to Rabbi Broka, is only 6 beitzim. Okay, so that's very close to 5 1/3, of course. The problem is, according to the Bavli, which is that, and this company for some reason brought this Bavli down in the Yerushalmi, in the Mishnah. I'm not sure why, but according to the Bavli, according to the Bavli, actually the shear of a kikar, according to Rabbi Yerushalmi Broka, is now smaller than the shear of kikar according to Rabbi Shimon. Shear of a kikar now becomes 6 beitzim, right? Because you talk to half for expenditures, so it's not 8. It's not even the same. It's lower, and therefore the shear of a pras for ba'isam nuga also now is going to be lower, as you see in the chart. According to Rabbi Yerushalmi, I'm just going to read it out and then tell you the chart. According to Rabbi Yerushalmi, the Havami the Yerushalmi, shear of a pras is 6 beitzim. According to the Maskana of the Yerushalmi, it's 4 beitzim because you deduct 1/3. According to Rabbi Shimon, the shear is 3 beitzim. Okay, I'm sorry, shear is, sorry, according to Bishim, is 4 beitzim. So okay, and now the shear for Chatzi Pras would be identical, 2 beitzim and 2 beitzim. Again, according to the Maskonos Yerushalmi. Originally it would have been 3 beitzim for Chatzi Pras. Now it's 2 according to both of them. Once you deduct that third according to Shimon. But according to Bavli, according to Rabbi Yochanan and Broka, so now actually the shear of a kikar, since you deducted a full half, is 6 beitzim. So shear of 2 sudas is still 6 beitzim, because that's what it requires, and it's more than required of Shimon. But according to the shear of pras, has become less than, according to Rabbi Shimon, 3 beitzim for a pras and 1.5 half beitzim for a bais nuga, as opposed to 2, according to Rabbi Shimon. That's on that chart over there. Okay, in any event, so Gemara says, Rabbi Yossi Bun Nafik Le'ilan Nuchtumaya. He went out to darshan to the bakers that Kadad Ravuna, like that which Ravuna said, that they can make they can charge a third for their overhead. Chud Kehen Shura. Again, only that much, a third, not more. But it's interesting because it's more than a sixth, obviously. And normally would be the shira of Onah. Obviously, expenditures here are great, and therefore we see that relative expenditure that you can increase the price based on your expenditures to whatever is reasonable. And he says then what's reasonable in this case is a third. Just like Ravuna said, you can take off a third for your expenditures and your overhead. Okay, halacha gimel. Anshechatzer b'anshemir peses. You have people in a yard and people in on a porch, and there's not sure which picture is better. Let's see. I'm going to compare the arts. Going to Perush Chai. Yeah, I'm going to go to Perush Chai here. Anshei Chutzer, you have the people who live down here on the Chutzer. People who live up here. They have their openings onto the Mirpeses, onto the porch. Shishach V'lo Irvu. So they didn't make an error between the two of them. Shakok Shavah Asrat Tefachim Mirpeses. Any of you have a pillar and it's more than 10 Tefachim, it goes to Mirpeses. If it's below 10 Tefachim, it goes to the Chutzer. So Kol Shagava starts falling passes, Pachas Mekan the Chutzer. Chuliyas Abor. You have Chuliyas Abor, you have a bor which has an opening, and the opening has a rim around it. That's the Chulia. Vasela, here it's a pillar, but it could also be a stone. If the rim is higher than 10 Tefachim, so then the top of the stone is higher than 10 Tefachim, goes to the Mirpeses, to the porch. Pachas Mecham, less than that goes to the Chutzer. But that's why if it's adjacent to the Mirpeses. You have the bays indicates the gap between the Mirpeses and the Chuya. But when it's adjacent to Mirpeses, and with Fleges, when it's a distance, then Afilu Hikavah Sar Tvachim L'Chutzer. Even if it's 10 Tvachim high, it goes to Chutzer. What's distance? It's going to be Flev Musmucha, what's going to be close, or what's distant? Kosh Ena Gurchok Arbar Tvachim. So then if it's more than 4 Tvachim away, it goes to, according to Pashtan the Mishnah, it goes actually completely to the yard. It says no. I feel Gavoa Sora Tvachim L'Chutzer Af L'Chutzer Kamolam Mirpeses, since it's not adjacent to the Mirpeses. Ushnei Masurim, and they're both Asur. In Lo Irvu Zaim said they didn't make it air with each other. Okay, so says the Gemara. I don't get it. Look at the Choshen Mishpat here. Below Shat Tachtonim, if this bor, okay, so it's 10 Tefachim high, but it belongs to the people in the Chutzer. Presumably it's in the Chutzer, it belongs to people in the Chutzer. So why should it be used by the people in the Mirpeset? Right? It belongs to the Tachtonim. So I'm Rabbi Yehuda Zoy Sameres. Rabbi Yehuda says from here you feel a very fundamental principle. Churvas Ruven b'toch Chutzer Shimon. Yeah, but Ruven has a churva in Shimon's Chutzer, and Shimon mishtamish ba, and Shimon is using it. Kamisha Shalom. It's as if it belongs to Shimon. Yes, technically it's Ruven's churva, but it's in Shimon's airspace, and Shimon's using it, so it's as if it's his. Okay, the next case, we do have a picture in the article here. We have 2 chatzeros, and they have a rishus in the middle. I've had some cases several times already between the two of them, to which they both have access. Okay, So that's the case. Shita Adamil, so this is obvious. Lezeb Pesach, Lezeb Pesach, both have access with an opening into this middle area. Shtei Masurim, they both can't carry there because they didn't make an air with each other, so therefore they are stuck. They cannot carry. So the Korban changes the gears slightly. Again, Shita Adamil, so the Zeb Pesach, Pesach, Shtei Masurim, Mina Bayis, not Shabo, but Mina Bayis Sheben Shtei Chatzeros. V'hachi Perusho. Says Korbaneda, Kiechadam Minal El Perchaloin. So you learn in Perchalon Gabi Baish Ben Shechat says a house between two Chatzeros, Shishneim Asurin, that both also Imlo Irvu, that they're both not allowed to use that house. Wadim B'chol Rishus, so to any Rishus, and including this case over here. Now, what about if one accesses that common Rishus by throwing things there? And another does things by lowering things there. So it's pity we don't have a picture in the article of this. So we have a picture in the Peirush Chai, not the greatest one, but it'll do. You have this mound over here, which is 10 tefachim high. So from the chotzer, you have to toss things on it. Okay, from the chotzer, you toss things up on it. From the roof over here, you would lower things on it. Okay, so lezeb is rika, lezeb shilshul. For this one would toss things on it. Lezeb shilshul, this one would lower things on it. So Shmuel said shilshul mutar, shukadarko. He says that it's the guy who can do mishalshul, can lower stuff on it. It belongs to him because it's the normal fashion, as Korbanei says. Shu kedarko l'gabizeh, shu lo zrika. Relative to the other guy, he's superior because he can do it at normal usage, lowering things, raising things. But the other guy can't do normal things because he has to toss it. So the I should have read the previous Korbanei. So even though 10 tefachim is not that high, that's not really with Zrika, but that's the way. Yeah, I'm not sure about the picture here because this 10 tefachim is not really. Don't really have to toss it on top. I think it's probably. It's hard to say. So the article does deal with it, and I see it does have a picture over here. More fancy picture than the Peirush Chai. It's the area in the middle, which is 10 tefachim higher than the lower yard, and 10 tefachim lower than the higher yard. So the guys on the bottom have to toss it, and the guys at the top can lower stuff down. So he does address in the note here, he says, even though the guy is standing in lower rishus and holding an object in his hand, does not have to, only has to pick up a little bit in order to put it in the higher rishus. But if he has to put there heavy objects which are on the ground, so it's very difficult to raise in that way. So that's called, he's going to toss them. So the Rabbeinu Yonis on the Goin Yaakov on the Bavli. Okay. It's difficult, but that's what they say. Rav Amar Lo Asal Klum. Rav argues in Shmuel, says, as Korbanei says, L'shteim Asurim, it's also both of them. L'shteim Mias Tashvi Shlom Menachasu. There's no, it's qualitatively, Shulshul and Zrika are not sufficiently different that you give one the advantage over the other. Masnisa Pliga Rav, our Mishnah seems to argue Rav. It says, Kosher Gavah Sar Tvachim L'Repesis. Any which is more than 10 Tvachim high goes to the porch. Pachas Mikan L'Chotzer. If it's less than that, then it goes to the Chotzer. So slight change next time for the Korban Eidah. Lo Zeb is Rika, Ula Zeb is Shishul. Isn't it similar? There's talking about where people in the yard have to toss things over the side of the rim, and people in the or the people in the beer passes are lowering things over the side of the rim. So the people in the beer passes have shilshul. People on the ground have zrika, and we're giving it to the mir passes. So we see that the Zeb shilshul, Zeb zrika, give it to the mir passes to whom it's. So the Gemara answers according to Rab, Masnis or Armish is Tosh Shlosh Tfachim Lo Yoina, which is it's within 3 Tfachim of the upper the the rim of the bore is within 3 tvachim of the mirpeses. Shulumala me'asara. It's above asara tvachim l'tachtona. It's above 10 tvachim for the to the bottom one. So the question by 3 tvachim is dafka, because in the Bavli, in a similar case, it says as long as it's within 10 tvachim. The Mishnah Bavli has in the case of an aliyah, it's supposed to be a peses. It's within 10 tvachim with aliyah. You see that pillar is within 10 tvachim with aliyah. And the Korban 80 here also learns it's lav dafka within 3 tvachim. It's within 10 tvachim. 3 to 10, he learns. There's in fact the Nir changes the girsa in the Yerushalmi to 10 tvachim. To shlosha tvachim l'yoyna. Shilamal me'asar tvachim l'tachtoyna. But the Yerushalmi Kibshuto says 3 tvachim is dafka, and he says that it's because the case which Yerushalmi is talking about, because remember Yerushalmi is talking about where the bore belongs to the people below, and the people on top are using it. So really, there's a double whammy. The people above, so therefore the only reason why they are allowed to use it and on Shabbos is because it's within 3 tvachim of them. So the fact that it's so easy for them to use overwhelms the ownership, which is technically the ownership of the chutzner below. Reb Chaim has also learned since 3 tvachim is dafka, and it says since it's within 3 tvachim of the merpeses, so therefore it's which is lavud, obviously. Therefore, it's like a pesach for them. It's like it's an opening for them, specifically open to them, not over the ones below. So therefore, the fact that even though according to Rab normally Lezer Bezika, Lezer B'Shilsha, they should both answer on each other. In this case, it's so close. So it's for the upper ones because within 3 tvachim of them that they get to use it. So again, some people learn Kormeda near as long as in 10 tvachim. Others learn that it has to definitely within 3 tvachim, which is of course the actual girsa in Yerushalmi as it is in front of us. My plea in Rav Shmuel, whether Rav Shmuel actually argue b'shaveh. So according to Korban 8, it means when it's to this, like we had a picture in the Peirush Chai, when it's when they're exactly 10, they both have equidistant from that. When they both equidistant from that that mound, 10 tvachim at the bottom, 10 tvachim from the top. So then there's a machlekes, but here. It's close, even though it's within 10 tvachim at the bottom, but within 10 tvachim at the top. According to later, that 3 is lav dafka. So it's closer to the top, and therefore, the fact it's close to the top, according to Rav, outweighs the fact that normally shulchan is equally inconvenient, and it goes to Elyon. According to the gears we have in front of us, so that's 3 and 10. So shavah means where it's more than 3. So then Shabbos left out doesn't be precisely Shabbos, but it's equally difficult for both of them because it's more than 3 tvachim away from each of them, and then the precise distance from each doesn't really matter. But the main point is they're both distant from each other. But here, where it's within 3 tvachim with El Yoina, so then you're going to give it to El Yoina for sure. Okay, Hayasham Churba. So if there's a Churba. It's between 2 chatzeros, right? You have churba between 2 chatzeros. Rabbi Yechon Amar Noitzen churba lebaaleh. You give the churba to its owner. Now, even if it's more difficult for him to use it than the other guy, right? Nevertheless, he still gets it. So this is since the churva is between 2 of them. I suppose the case which Gemara began, where the churva is inside somebody else's chutzner. This is between 2 chatzeros, but one of them owns the churva. Even though for him it's harder to use than it is for his friend, nevertheless you give it to the guy who owns it. Right? Nice churva baleh. Adkadu. This is where there's limitations. This adkadu mishtash churva derech pischa. That's if you can get to the churva through an opening. Hayim mishtash churva derech chaloin. What if you only use this one guy who owns it? Only get through a window. He can't go get through a Pesach. And the other guy, as Korban points out, let's see that. So to whom do you give in that case? So Rabbi Yaakov Shem said, which the name Rabbi Eliezer says, nevertheless, even though he can only use it to chalon, you still give it to its owner. Okay, Rabbi Eliezer, and it says Eliezer Rabbi Shimon, which would be a Tana, so the Chaim takes out the Rabbi Shimon here. Rabbi Eliezer, the Amora, says name Rabbi Yeshua, Hayu Shalosh, if you had 3. Now the picture in the art scroll shows 3 churbas, where they're all open by Pesach. Right? Pesach, Pesach, Pesach. Sorry about that. To each other. But Reb Chaim doesn't learn that way. And Reb Chaim learns that the openings are with chaloin. I'm not sure if he has a picture here. He does not. I made a picture of my Gemara, but I don't think it's going to help you very much because it's very tiny, but let's try anyway. So the 2 houses are open to the adjacent churbas by Pesach, and those 2 churbas are open to the middle churba by a chalon. We have the house is open, this house open this churba, that house open that churba, and they have Pesach here, Pesach there, and then these 2 churbas open to a 3rd churba in the middle. That 3rd churba is only open to those 2 churbas by a window, by windows. So it's a Zebazrika for the middle one. So Hayu Shalosh Zemishtash Churba Der Pischa Zemishtash Churba Der Pischa. So it's much, that's why Chaim's Medayik, right? There's one Pesach between each one and the adjacent churba, but not to the middle one. The middle one is Asr. Because they both have the same equal access to it. Both of them is Rika, because it has window, just a window, above, and the window is above 10 Fachim. So they can't, they both can't use it. It's Asr on both of them. Amos I wins this true, but Zmanchem Tzoy Shneim, that's only the middle one belongs to both of them. But the middle one belongs to something from the marketplace. Interesting case. Now, why would that be? So this one can use his korban only, and this one can use his korban plus the middle korban. So the Rashba says that it's about where one of them has usage over in the weekdays. So since he normally uses in the weekdays, we give it him for Shabbos also. Because he's, even though it's Zebazika, but he's one who usually uses it. So therefore, we give it to him. That's the Rashba. But the, by the way, it's the Rashba before it's who relates to Rabbi Shimon. Okay? Not wasn't himself, it's the Chaim named Rashba. But here, he changes it, and this is evidently from Ramatisos Shasun, the Ramash. She had Rameir Simcha, but I'm not sure which one. Changes Min Hashuk to Mehen, which makes it a lot easier. So he says that I might say Chad Mehen. Then because it belongs to him, even though they both have speak on it, but since it belongs to him, so therefore we give it to him, since it belongs to him. Yeah, it's not Rameir Simcha. Okay, so it's Samech. Okay, so the now our mission talk about Chiyas Abor, right? So so we're going to talk about Chiyas Abor. Rabbi Yochanan said, "Omed v'achol mitzdarfin la'arbor," that the Chiyah of the bor, the rim of the bor, is mitzdarf with the bor to make up the shear of 4 tvachim by 4 tvachim, which you need in order to make something into a shus by itself. The thickness of the mound, of the dirt of the mound, has to be more thick than the thickness of the cavity of the bore, which is which is within the rim. So the Gemara says, Rabbi Zira says, we asked, so they have to be that each one of the sides in of itself is greater than the vacant space in the middle, or even if it's made on one, only move around one side. So Rabbi Yosef explains what Rabbi Zir is asking. Rabbi Yosef, Pshita Rabbi Zir she'eino oimed mitzad echad mitztarif. It's only oimed on one side of the bor. The other side has nothing. So then it's separate from the bor. It's not mitztarif from the bor. Also, Pshita lei she'oimed mitzad echad rabba, that at least one side has to be greater than the space of the bor. That's not a question. The question is lo tzricha da ella. His question is afilu omed sheni. The question is when does the second side also have to be greater than the size of the bor? So the Gemara doesn't resolve the suffix, but this is the suffix. It's a nice picture in the article here. Right, you have the vacant space of the bor is 1.5, and you have on one side you have 2, which is larger than the other side of the bor, than the vacant space of the bor. But the other side it's only half. So is that good enough? See that case over there? So that's the question. In that case over there, that you need to have omen on both stadim. That the boat should be larger than the size of the bor. Even if it's one side is larger than the size of the bor, the other side doesn't have to be larger. And the Gemara doesn't resolve the suffix. Okay, that brings us Mamshi and the Amid, so we will stop here for today.